Hee-joo, a sign language interpreter, witnessed presidential spokesperson Sa-eon's hardline stance against hostage negotiation on television. Hee-joo silently disagrees, foreshadowing their differing values. Later that night, driving home, Hee-joo's car is remotely hijacked, the radio cuts out, and a masked man takes control at knife point. The hijacker forces Hee-joo to call Sa-eon for ransom, but Sa-eon dismisses it as a prank and hangs up, repeating the action again with a second call. This enrages the hijacker and devastates Hee-joo. In desperation, she crashes the car, injuring the kidnapper. Returning home secretly, Hee-joo doesn't reveal the incident to Sa-eon, who seems unusually on edge himself. Sa-eon meets Hyuk-jin, a reporter friend, and asks Hee-joo to interpret at an upcoming event at the British Embassy. A conversation with her mother reveals that Hee-joo was essentially married off to Sa-eon as collateral after her sister ran away from the marriage. A divorce initiated by Hee-joo would cost her a substantial sum. Then, the hijacker calls Sa-eon again, this time revealing details about their marriage arrangement, catching Sa-eon off guard. The episode then reveals the twist. Hee-joo is the one making the calls, having stolen the phone after the car crash. She is impersonating her own kidnapper, seeking to liberate herself and chastise Sa-eon for his lack of concern. She demands a ransom of 2 billion won, infuriating Sa-eon, who vows to capture the person who dare to mess with his person. As Sa-eon investigates over the next few days, Hee-joo works to conceal her plan. In preparation for the next ransom call, Hee-joo sends Sa-eon a racy picture of her leg. Sa-eon dismisses it as fake, unaware of a distinctive mole on her leg. This leads to Hee-joo angrily scolding him for not knowing his own wife's body and daring him to confirm it. The situation intensifies when Sa-eon's reporter friend suggests the kidnapping is actually an affair, fueling Sa-eon's jealousy and making him less cooperative during the kidnapper's call. The call is abruptly cut off by a loud noise. Sa-eon doesn't come home that night. The following morning, Hee-joo sees a news report using a recording of her voice-modulated call to Sa-eon as evidence in relation to an office bombing that occurred the previous night, implying a larger conspiracy. Sa-eon appears, looking disheveled and urgently seeking confirmation about Hee-joo, beginning with verification of the mole on her leg. Sa-eon finds Hee-joo and checks for injuries, questioning her about a car accident. Hee-joo remains silent, and he sends the call recording to his team for analysis. Back home, Sa-eon asks for Hee-joo's car keys to inspect the dashcam, worrying Hee-joo that he'll discover she can speak. Fortunately, the dashcam footage is empty. Sa-eon then receives a tape from his team showing the perpetrator easily entering Hee-joo's car, making him doubt her story. When Sa-eon goes home, he asks Hee-joo to apply for the role of an interpreter in the presidential office. In a flashback, Hee-joo is shown putting effort into being a good wife by cooking Sa-eon food and getting him to dance with her. However, Sa-eon asks her to not fall for him and to stay out of his way. Hee-joo visits her father, who has a mental disability and supported their family by singing at clubs. She confides in him that she feels as though she has lost her identity. Sa-eon seeks advice from Hyuk-jin about the calls, without revealing his personal connection. Meanwhile, in flashback, we see a dream sequence where Hee-joo is recovering from an accident as a teen, and her mother asks her why she's the one who survived. Back in the present, Sa-eon is increasingly suspicious of Hee-joo's relationship with Sang-woo. Hee-joo asks Sa-eon if he suspects that she and Sang-woo are having an affair, and he admits he doesn't trust Sang-woo, questioning how well she knows him, considering they've known each other for 20 years. Sa-eon confidently believes that the serial arsonist isn't the kidnapper. He returns home and asks for Hee-joo's phone to check for any hacking attempts, to which she complies. He doesn't check her thigh, but decides to uncover the truth himself. The kidnapper is shown texting someone, inviting them to join in on the fun. Sa-eon, suspicious of Sang-woo, looks through Hee-joo's chats without her knowledge and discovers they are meeting for lunch. Sang-woo reveals a new story in front of the people from the news channel where Yuri works, but leaves without finishing since he has to meet Hee-joo for lunch. Sa-eon and Hee-joo both have to leave lunch early due to work commitments. Sa-eon has to figure out the fire situation, while Hee-joo has an application for the presidential sign language interpreter position. Hee-joo asks Sa-eon for money, seemingly nonchalantly. Terrified, Hee-joo rushes to the hospital to find her father, but finds him safe. While on her way back in a police car, the radio starts malfunctioning like it did before her kidnapping, triggering her and causing her to become sick and upset. Sa-eon arrives as she is kneeling on the ground and picks her up. When the police ask, he tells them that Hee-joo is his wife, surprising her. The police report that there have been several cases of arson in the area, and they are looking for a serial arsonist. As they drive home, Hee-joo silently cries in the car, overwhelmed by everything but still unable to speak and explain her feelings to Sa-eon. Sa-eon remains unaware that she is able to speak. The scene cuts to Yuri and Sang-woo having a casual dinner together. Their conversation reveals that Yuri knows Hee-joo was Sang-woo's first love. Sang-woo asks about Sa-eon's past, and Yuri shares how Sa-eon once mentored her. Sa-eon and Hee-joo prepare for a dinner with Sa-eon's parents. Sa-eon notices Hee-joo's swollen face from crying and suggests she rest. At the dinner, Sa-eon's father insults Hee-joo, calling her useless and a substitute daughter. Sa-eon defends Hee-joo, leading to a heated argument with his father. He asks his father to stop relying on him for political gain and refuses to participate in malpractice. Alone, Sa-eon comforts Hee-joo, empathizing with her inability to defend herself due to her apparent disability. Another man is revealed to be taking pictures of the dinner, because Sa-eon's parents want to put out a story about him participating in the next election. Back at home, Hee-joo contemplates discarding the phone linked to the mysterious caller, but is interrupted by Sa-eon. Shortly after, she receives calls from her colleagues wishing her luck for an upcoming interview to become the interpreter for the president's spokesperson. Meanwhile, Sa-eon, suspicious of Sang-woo, investigates his background further. He learns that Sang-woo has an online channel where he talks about unsolved cases. During the interview for an interpreter at the presidential office, Sa-eon observes Hee-joo via his computer while his team assesses candidates. Impressed by her quick responses, he joins the interview and challenges her to interpret his words in real time. Later, at an anniversary event of Hee-joo's adoptive father's company, emotions run high. Hee-joo, pretending to be the kidnapper and slightly intoxicated, calls Sa-eon from the rooftop, asking how he felt upon discovering his bride had changed on their wedding day. She pours out everything that has been bothering her, mostly comments directed at herself, unaware that Sa-eon is making his way to the rooftop. He rebuts her criticisms, only to find her precariously standing on a bench in high heels near the edge. Sa-eon realizes she's dangerously close to the edge and his protective instincts kick in. The episode closes with Sa-eon receiving shocking news from the police officers who had driven Hee-joo after her hospital visit. They show him dashcam footage of Hee-joo screaming to be let out of the car. This leaves Sa-eon shocked. Questions run through him about whether he'll confront her lies or continue pretending he doesn't know. After some time, Sa-eon arrives at the company party, still reeling from the dashcam footage. He sees Yeon-hui pulling his wife to the restroom and overhears their conversation. Yeon-hui reminds Hee-joo that it was the car accident in which her brother died and her sister went deaf that she lost her voice. Sa-eon wants to hear from Hee-joo's mom about her voice. Sa-eon confronts Yeon-hui, asking why Hee-joo still suffers from selective mutism and cautions Yeon-hui to treat Hee-joo right. Sa-eon continues to steal glances at his wife, even as his adoptive father asks when he is joining his dad's campaign. At 10 p.m., Sa-eon gets a call from the kidnapper, prompting him to head to the rooftop to give Hee-joo her jacket. Sa-eon wants to hear from Hee-joo's mom about her voice, and she reminds him that it was the car accident in which her brother died and her sister went deaf that she lost her voice. When Sa-eon gets on the roof, Hee-joo, who's on the edge, panics and nearly falls backward while trying to get off it, but he catches her. Sa-eon asks her how she could have been on the phone when she can't speak. He rushes to catch her and expresses his worry that she is suicidal. Hee-joo is flustered and gets the hiccups. Sa-eon orders her to make a sound, but she doesn't. Sa-eon is frustrated that she refuses to come clean. He gets a call from Doo-jae informing him that 406, code for the caller, is in the building with them. Simultaneously, Hee-joo takes the elevator to head back downstairs. Sa-eon realizes she might be in danger and takes the stairs to get to her. Seeing the tension, Hee-joo decides to step out. Sa-eon then excuses himself and says he's going to go buy ice cream. Sang-woo texts Hee-joo and invites her for a drink. Sa-eon sees the message and asks her to accept it. Dinner ends up being a four-person affair, with Yuri joining Sang-woo and Sa-eon tagging along too. Another jealousy fit between Sang-woo and Sa-eon starts at dinner. Sang-woo demands to know why Sa-eon is curious about him, but Hee-joo intervenes. However, things get hectic when Sang-woo recalls Hee-joo's dream to be a news anchor and how they listened to music together in their college broadcast room. Our mischievous Yuri asks if something happened between the two and makes the mistake of asking how Hee-joo thought of being a news anchor when she is mute. Things escalate between Sang-woo and Sa-eon, forcing Hee-joo to step in and explain she is happy with her new job. She leaves to get some fresh air and calm down, and Sa-eon follows her. As he watches two sisters walk home, he starts recalling how Hee-joo used to help Ina before she got her hearing aids. At the time, Sa-eon was frustrated watching Hee-joo accept everything being done to her. He wanted her to fight or rebel, at least do something for herself. Sa-eon and Hee-joo are standing by the river when a truck speeds towards Sa-eon. Hee-joo screams his name, pushing him hard to the road, saving him from the oncoming truck. Sa-eon tells her he heard her voice, and he wants to hear it more. We circle back to Hee-joo's call with the kidnapper the previous night. He called to threaten her since she saved Sa-eon from the oncoming truck. He claimed to know the real Sa-eon and wanted him to suffer. He also warned her that Sa-eon was onto her. Sa-eon promises to learn sign language to coordinate better with the interpreters, and Hee-joo teaches him how to sign a few things. After his talk with Doo-jae, Sa-eon gets drunk at the team dinner, and they send him home. Hee-joo finds him still sleeping in the car and helps him inside. As they tumble to the floor, Doo-jae texts Sa-eon, informing him that the audio file he sent and the kidnapper's call are 9% similar. Sa-eon doesn't see the message. Hee-joo realizes she accidentally kissed Sa-eon when they tumbled over. However, she doesn't pull back from him and simply looks at him while he sleeps. The next day, Sa-eon wakes up from a nightmare about being bombed as a child. He finds Hee-joo sleeping on his arm and awkwardly tries to remember the previous night's events. Hee-joo makes breakfast for him, and he subtly tries to glean what happened without revealing that he knows she can speak or about the kiss. Doo-jae calls Sa-eon to inform him that the voice analysis confirms a 99% match between Hee-joo's voice and the kidnappers. Doo-jae clarifies that the calls are definitely Hee-joo's, but the caller, Hee-joo, and the actual kidnapper and arsonist are not the same people. Sa-eon realizes Hee-joo is involved but isn't working with the criminals. The episode transitions to a company retreat where people are playing games. Sa-eon observes Hee-joo and subtly tries to gauge her feelings. He sees a sheet of paper with sign language for words like affection, and later recalls how Hee-joo used to help Ina before she got her hearing aids. That night, Sa-eon receives another call from 406 Hee-joo. Knowing it's Hee-joo, he initiates a game of 20 questions to understand her motives and what she truly desires. He wants to know what she really wants. Hee-joo, still unaware that Sa-eon knows her secret, learns that Sa-eon used to find solace in watching her practice sign language at night. The call concludes with Hee-joo stating that she will stop calling if Sa-eon can give her what she wants, a real marriage, contingent on his actions. Later, Sa-eon meets with his assistant, who provides a complete analysis of the calls. The conclusion is that 406 and the kidnapper are connected somehow, but not as accomplices. Sa-eon wants to figure out what she wants through the calls and use it to his own advantage, get to know her better. As Sa-eon tries to figure out what is going on, Hee-joo is lured outside and seemingly pushed off a ledge. Hee-joo wakes up disoriented and injured in a remote location with a bag containing a medical kit and a flare. Her phone doesn't work, but she still has the kidnapper's phone, which can only call Sa-eon. She hesitates, but ultimately calls Sa-eon for help. Sa-eon, already searching for her, answers immediately. He tells 406, pretending he doesn't know it's Hee-joo, about the medical kit and flare in the bag, implying he anticipated trouble. He admits he is tremendously worried and scared to lose Hee-joo. It turns out that Hee-joo was pushed, as there was no way she could have just fallen by herself. Meanwhile, we see a flashback to an accident involving Ina, Hee-joo, and her little brother. Hee-joo recalls in her unconscious state how Sa-eon has been saving her for as long as they've known each other. She wonders why she hasn't been able to tell him how she feels. Hee-joo wakes up in the hospital. She calls out to Sa-eon and asks him not to leave her. He holds her hand and agrees to stay. Sa-eon's father's advisor suggests using Hee-joo's accident for his political benefit. Sa-eon's father is angry that an accident occurred when he was so close to his political dream job. But one advisor suggests announcing that this is a criminal case and not an accident, targeted at Sa-eon's dad and not the presidential spokesperson. Sa-eon decides to frame the attack as a failed attempt on his life, keeping Hee-joo and his father out of it, and pushing the narrative of a blackmailing situation. He makes a public announcement about the death threats he has been getting. This stirs up gossip about what blackmail-worthy things he might have done, but Sa-eon doesn't care as long as it keeps Hee-joo out of the spotlight. Plus, he gets to shut down his father's attempt at milking the incident for sympathy points. In the hospital, Hee-joo thinks about her last conversation with Sa-eon on call and imagines him divorcing her and asking for 2 billion won. Hee-joo tells Sa-eon that she's going to give him the phone as evidence so he can catch the kidnapper. Sa-eon finds out from Do-jae that the voice modulation on 406's phone was also used to facilitate hacking, which Sa-eon assumed was used to find their location. Do-jae suggests tracking it back to the kidnapper. Hee-joo gets a call from the kidnapper, and he then texts her that he did not push her, asking her to open the door since he wants his phone back. As someone tries to open the door, she rushes and immediately locks it. Scared for her life, she hears Sa-eon calling out to her, and she opens the door and hugs him. Worried, Sa-eon calls the doctors. Reporter Hyuk-jin asks Sa-eon to stay careful and not act rashly. Hee-joo asks Sa-eon if he is scared of the posts circulating about him. Sa-eon reassures her. Sa-eon gets onto the same bed to help her sleep better. Hee-joo gets up in the middle of the night to call Sa-eon as 406. However, he asks her to hand over the phone, to which she agrees. He tells her that he has a specific spot for her to come before they meet face to face. It happens to be the amusement park that she was meant to visit as a kid before the accident occurred, and the word amusement park was banned at home. Sa-eon sends her on a scavenger hunt of sorts through an amusement park. He says he's trying to help her relax, but it's also a place she associates with childhood trauma. He gets her to go on the rides and get some ice cream until he tells her to come to the Namsan Tower. He allows his reaction to finding out about this ultimate deception to double up as the confession of his feelings. Finally, Sa-eon reveals that he already knew she was the caller. She asks why he doesn't hate her for it, but he says he doesn't know how. He asks her to tell him how he cannot love her because he's actually in love with her. He says he doesn't know how to hate her and kisses her. After some time, Sa-eon is making kimchi fried rice for Hee-joo at home. He reflects on their past, revealing that when they first got married, he was scared they would genuinely fall in love with each other, so he told her not to fall for him. This decision was driven by fear, and he now realizes it was a mistake. As they spend more time together, Hee-joo is shocked that Sa-eon forgives her so easily despite knowing everything she did. Sa-eon feels guilty about not telling her the truth, which he believes might be worse than what she did. Meanwhile, the kidnapper makes a surprising visit to Sa-eon's building, getting close enough to him without raising suspicion. This raises questions about the security and the kidnapper's intentions. Sa-eon's past is revealed further, showing that he is the adopted son of Yoo. It is hinted that Chairman Baek tried to kill the actual son, and Sa-eon witnessed this event. The episode also explores Sang-woo's investigation into an orphanage, which becomes a focal point for several characters. He invites Hee-joo to meet him there, and Sa-eon follows, leading to a dramatic confrontation when he sees them together. Later, Sa-eon ends up in an accident at his father's place while trying to save him from a fire. Before this, Sang-woo is seen driving away, suggesting he might be involved in the fire. Hee-joo receives a visit from her sister, In-ae, who asks why she left in the first place. This conversation hints at deeper family secrets and unresolved issues. Sa-eon struggles with his insecurities and secrets that Hee-joo doesn't know about. He decides not to tell the police about the 406 phone, keeping the mystery alive. The kidnapper is shown to be annoyed at his accomplice for pushing Hee-joo off the mountain and is raging about wanting to take everything from Sa-eon. He sends ominous messages to Hee-joo, including a seemingly random variety show clip with a news scroll at the bottom referencing the missing orphans case Sang-woo is investigating. Meanwhile, Sa-eon holding a press conference to help figure out what the kidnapper wants, using a video as an incentive for public assistance. Hee-joo reflects on her relationship with Sa-eon. She's surprised by how easily he forgives her despite knowing everything she did. Meanwhile, Sa-eon is dealing with his own secrets and the weight of his family's past. In meets Hee-joo and reveals documents that show Sa-eon isn't the Paik grandson. Hee-joo tells her sister that it doesn't matter, as she also deceived him. In seems genuinely concerned for Hee-joo, expressing a desire to hear her call her Yuni, older sister in Korean, indicating a softer side. In discusses how there was no sign of a child in their family until Sa-eon was 15, raising questions about why the family hid him. Hee-joo asks who sent the documents, but In doesn't know. Later, Hee-joo tries to call Sa-eon multiple times, but can't reach him. Meanwhile, a box of bloody fish is delivered during the Paik family photo shoot, and Sa-eon's mother follows the kidnapper to his home. They seem to know each other well. Sang-woo informs Sa-eon that Mr. Jong has woken up. Sa-eon speaks to Mr. Jong and learns that he had to bury all the kids that the real Sa-eon had killed. It's revealed that the real Sa-eon lost his memory after his grandfather's failed attempt to murder him. This raises questions about whether he has regained his memory and is now seeking revenge. In the present, Hee-joo's dreams come true as she gets the sign for Sa-eon at an event. Her father calls Sa-eon his son-in-law while watching them together on TV, marking a tender moment. As Sa-eon investigates further, he sends Hee-joo off with Do-jae while he drives to the graves of the missing children. However, it's revealed that Do-jae is one of the missing twins. Just as Sa-eon learns this, Do-jae stops answering his calls because he has knocked Hee-joo unconscious and taken her. This twist leaves Sa-eon in a desperate situation, unaware of Hee-joo's fate. Sa-eon in a state of panic, trying to locate Hee-joo while dealing with the shocking revelation about Do-jae's identity. Hee-joo confronts her mother about her past and the manipulation she endured. NAS actions also suggest a desire to expose the truth about Sa-eon's family, further complicating the plot. The kidnapper's motives become clearer, revealing a connection to Sa-eon's past and the mysterious events surrounding his adoption. Hee-joo dreams of having a happy, normal life with Sa-eon while unconscious in Do-jae's car. Do-jae lures the real Sa-eon to the place where Chairman Paik tried to kill him. Since Do-jae was after the Sa-eon who killed his twin, he had mistaken the two. After overhearing the real Sa-eon's conversation with Sang-hun, the fish shop owner, Do-jae finds out that the one he actually was after was the real Sa-eon and not the spokesperson. After the real Sa-eon comes to the location, Do-jae hits him in the head but is overpowered. Spokesperson Sa-eon soon reaches the location looking for Hee-joo and finds a black bag with Do-jae inside it. Still alive, Do-jae informs him about the real Sa-eon. The real Sa-eon starts the car with Hee-joo inside it. She escapes using her wits, and a fight starts between the two Sa-eons. Do-jae intervenes and gets stabbed in the process. In-a and Hee-joo visit Chairman Hong and ask why the accident was covered up. In a flashback, Chairman Beck is shown telling Chairman Hong that he had killed the one who caused the accident. After finding that the murderer Sa-eon is still alive, Chairman Hong rushes to the memorial service of Chairman Beck and points his rifle at Uio. Hee-joo calls spokesperson Sa-eon to the location. As all of this is happening, a small blast occurs at the service. Hyojin is aware of the presence of murderer Sa-eon, having seen him earlier at the location. As the guards try to evacuate the place, In-a is unable to find Hee-joo. The police inform the spokesperson Sa-eon that the murderer is at the same location. While holding a knife to Hee-joo's neck, the real Sa-eon tells spokesperson Sa-eon that he shall kill her. Sa-eon, tracking his location, rushes to find Hee-joo. Sa-eon announces to the world that he's not Sa-eon after all, and that Hee-joo is his wife. He requests everyone's cooperation in finding her before it's too late. There are strong romantic moments between Sa-eon and Hee-joo. The scene where Sa-eon promises to propose to Hee-joo is particularly emotional. Chaos at Chairman Beck's funeral erupts. The kidnapper once again kidnaps Hee-joo. He calls Sa-eon to taunt him about taking away the thing most precious to him. But it turns out his real issue isn't our Sa-eon having taken his place in the family, but having stood by while he was suffering and refused to intervene. Hee-joo takes over and drives the car off the road with both she and the kidnapper still inside. 2 days later, they're both missing. Sa-eon wonders if he had told Hee-joo that he loved her and wanted to work on their marriage. Would things have turned out differently? Instead, he tried to distance himself from her under the impression that that would keep her safe, instead of letting her know that he felt at ease knowing she was married to him. Hee-joo is still missing after the car went off the cliff. Sa-eon is frantically searching for her, and his thoughts are filled with regret over not being honest about his feelings sooner. Hee-joo, however, is alive and being held by the real Sa-eon, who is revealed to be the one responsible for the kidnappings and arson. Meanwhile, it is disclosed that Hee-joo and the real Sa-eon are both alive. As Kyujin's reality is exposed, Sa-eon confronts him about his involvement in the kidnappings. The real Sa-eon is shown to be highly unstable and violent, driven by a desire for revenge against those he perceives as having wronged him. In a dramatic turn of events, Yoo-young misses shooting the real Sa-eon and gets into an altercation with him. Unable to overpower his own emotions as well as the real son, Yoo-young gets shot by his son. The real Sa-eon then looks for Hee-joo, who wakes up after hearing his voice calling out to her. Seeing a car, she runs towards it and finds Sa-eon inside. The police catch up soon and ask them to leave. Hee-joo tells them that the real Sa-eon is around and is armed as well. While leaving, the real Sa-eon shows up in front of their car, and Sa-eon goes out to try and talk to him. The kidnapper demands Sa-eon get out and face him. Instead of doing the smart thing and running him over, Sa-eon obeys. The kidnapper whispers something in his ear, something that makes Sa-eon look at Hee-joo with shame and sorrow. In shocking turn of events, a gunshot is heard, and Hee-joo narrates about Sa-eon being gone, echoing his question about whether things would have ended differently if they'd been honest about their feelings sooner. It's ultimately revealed that the police shot the kidnapper before he could harm anyone else. Hee-joo is having a nightmare about Sa-eon getting shot by the kidnapper. She wakes up from the dream, relieved that it was just a nightmare. However, the reality is complex. Sa-eon is alive, but has disappeared from public life. As the truth about the kidnapper's identity and motives is uncovered, Sa-eon's adoptive mother, Kyujin, is arrested for her involvement in covering up the family's dark past. She is sentenced to life in prison and appeals for the death penalty, feeling guilty for not being able to protect her son. Meanwhile, Yoo-young, Sa-eon's father, is punished for his role in the family's wrongdoings. Upon his release, he gives an apologetic press conference, claiming no knowledge of his father's true nature. Sa-eon, who has resigned as press secretary, donates all his assets and disappears from public life. Hee-joo is left to piece together what happened to him, relying on memories and rumors. She learns that Sa-eon had been seeking advice on being a better husband and had taken her biological father out for tonkatsu on his birthday. Despite Ina's insistence that Sa-eon isn't coming back, Hee-joo holds on to hope. She receives a mysterious call from an unknown number with the area code 604, which is the reverse of the one she used to call Sa-eon from. This, combined with a donation made in her name to a sign language school in the same area where Sa-eon once served as a war correspondent, suggests that Sa-eon might still be out there. In a surprising turn of events, Hee-joo travels to the war zone area, only to be kidnapped by local rebels. This act of desperation is her attempt to get Sa-eon's attention. Sa-eon returns to Korea, changes his name to Yoo-yeon, and announces his marriage to Hee-joo. This marks a new beginning for the couple, who have finally found a way to be together honestly and openly. Additionally, Sang-woo and Yuri are shown to be getting married, giving both main couples their respective happy endings.